Gotcha.
Yes, there we go.
What is up?
What's going on, man? I like that you had the exact same idea as me, which is wear the hoodie.
Yeah, always.
I love it, man. Dude, the second I saw this color, I was like, yo, I have to have that hoodie. It's so sick, man. I literally haven't taken it off. I refuse. This has been the first hoodie I have. I refuse to put in the dryer because I love the way it fits. I don't want to ruin it.
Oh yeah, air dry.
Yeah, legitimately.
How you been, bud?
Good, man. I thought we'd just jump right into it. I don't know if you saw the thing. It's just recording straight away. But yeah, man, I'm good.
Good.
It's been a good start to the new year. I'm doing this like challenge with a couple of friends of mine, like my best buddy, his wife, me and my girlfriend are doing this like cold water exposure for 30 days.
Sweet.
Dude, it is brutal.
What? And so you started like Jan 1?
I'm on no, we started this second, I think. I'm on day
Okay.
4. So the third, I guess, was day 1.
How's that feeling?
Dude, it's taken a little bit of experimentation for sure.
Yeah.
I think I got my system down pat. The first couple of days I was like jumping straight into the cold and I was like I legit cannot breathe. I've always had like issues focusing on my breath, so this is a good exercise for me, but yeah, day 3 I came up with the idea of warming up first, so I did like a half hour of cardio, jump in the hottest shower I could handle, and then jump in, and then I did the same thing today.
And how was that? That's different.
Much better, dude. Much
Really?
better. Yeah, I feel like when I go in hot, like my core temperature is way hotter, it's like a lot faster for me to regain my breath. And then the other thing I've been doing is like a huge exhale through the mouth as I get in.
Yeah.
And then that makes it a lot easier. And I just watched a video of someone doing it while I was doing my cardio.
That's sweet. Yeah, so I got away from it and I noticed a huge difference whenever I was not doing my cold water stuff. So I started renovating the chest freezer.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, like we live on a lake here, so I can do it as much as I want, right? But in the summer I really noticed a change. Like I really noticed a difference. So I was like, I got to get back at it. So I actually went out the other day and hopped in. And yeah, it was like, oh yeah, I remember I got to work on my breathing and my, mindset. And because I was right away, I was like, oh, this is cold.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, man. I've done it a few times. Like this is like my first time trying to implement it in terms of like a daily routine. Before when
Mhm.
I've done it, it's always just been like oh, we should go for a hike to this mountain and jump in the spring kind of thing, or like jump in the ocean in January or whatever it is. This is like the first time where I've been like, how do I make this like part of a daily routine for at least 30 days? Like
Yeah.
so it's been like experimentation of like fill up the bathtub the night before, throw in a couple trays of ice kind of thing. And I threw in a meat thermometer. I got it down to like 42 Fahrenheit. So it's like 5 for us, like 4 or 5 degrees, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, there's different ways. I don't know. I guess like in Canada, we're lucky because we have
Yeah.
cold ass water. Like we have, you turn on the cold water tap and it's actually legitimately cold ass water. So you're kind of like, you can jump in a cold shower, cold bathtub, whatever it is. Like
Yeah,
there's
it's so
cool ways to
true.
make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. One of the things that I was reading too was about how, like, if you're doing like strength training and stuff like that, is making sure that you do your cold water stuff before. Because I was kind of doing it, some of it was like after, like I'd always do it in the mornings. But then whenever I read that and kind of looked into it, I was like, shit, because I guess it kind of it'll stunt the body's protein, like the synthesis to build out the muscle mass. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do it before then. So I've been trying to get at it before the workouts more. So that's one thing. If you're training, try to do it before, and then you won't lose any gains.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard the same thing about hypertrophy. I always struggle saying that word,
Yeah,
but
it's always a tongue twister.
yeah, for I try and do the same thing. Like I do my weight training and everything later on in the day. I've just been like jump on the bike for 20 minutes, do a little bit of cardio, get the heart rate up. Honestly, it's like I just want to increase my core temperature and
Mm,
get warm before I
yeah.
jump in that cold ass water. But
I'm gonna try that tomorrow whenever I go out. I'm gonna try to get everything warmed up. I got an echo bike downstairs, so I'll try to get that get that going and then hop in because usually I find whenever I first hop in, it's I gotta jump right into the mindset because I'm like, oh, this is hurting.
yeah, yeah. Well, dude, I guess I can kind of like I'll share a little story. The reason I was like so amped to try it is because like I do home renos and I'm doing a renovation for this lady. She's got like a leak in her deck. And
Yeah,
I did work for her like a couple years ago when she's like probably, if I had to guess, maybe early 80s.
yeah.
And when I was working for her before, she had her husband had like pretty bad dementia, and so
Mhm.
like it was kind of difficult. Like he was always kind of like, oh, who are these guys in my house? Like what the hell's going on? And yeah, weird environment. So
Yeah,
when I came to her in December, end of December, I was like, oh hey, how's it going? She's like, it's I'm glad you asked because like my life's kind of a mess. Like, she tells me her story. Like her husband ended up having a stroke as well, and then he's in permanent care now, and she's going through all this stuff. And she like this all happened over the holidays. And so like I'm working on her place. I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to try and make her life a little bit better. Like this is so I'm talking with her all the time. And she's like, yeah, I'm going down for a swim. She lives like right on the beach in Vancouver,
yeah.
like right by Kitts Beach. And she's like in her 80s and she goes down and swims in the water right now, like beginning of January. And
Holy,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, what? Why? Like, just out of curiosity, like, why do you do this? Like, what's going on? And she's like, well, like when I go out in the ocean and I can feel like my breath get taken away, like it just brings me into a meditative state where I'm not thinking about like all my life's problems. I'm not thinking about those things. Like it's just me in the ocean water. And I'm like, dude, that is the coolest,
yeah,
most spiritual way to look at life. Like
yeah,
how like it's crazy when you hear about the things people go through
yeah.
and the way that they've chosen to overcome it.
Yeah, and like some things work for some people and some things just don't, right? Like I know that's why I started with the cold water was I was like I know my psych was like, "Hey, you should try work on mindfulness." And I was like, "Do I seem like somebody that can work at mindfulness? Like this is hard for me, right?" So and then so she's like, "Okay, well, like what about like just being in the moment and this and that?" And I'm like, "Oh boy." So but then I was like I told you last time we chatted, like once I tried doing the cold water, you have to control your body and just kind of like it's weird, but you kind of gotta like be in the moment, but kind of like you kind of put yourself somewhere else, which is crazy that you can do that. And that's why like me and my girlfriend, why we got into running so much is it's almost like our exercise therapy now. Like I kind of took a little bit of a break from the weight training and just been doing a lot of running and then just weight training to supplement it, but or to complement it. But yeah, it's like the same thing. I went for a run today for like an hour. I couldn't feel my hands whenever I started. And then, but by the time I was done, all smiles. I'm like, this is the best, right? Like, it was just all the endorphin, everything releasing. I'm just like, man, I am vibing great right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
There's
it's crazy
something.
how people work with that, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. It's weird to me as well when I think about like I'm sure you're pretty similar to me in that we naturally have like certain ways that we gravitate towards like it's not difficult to find yourself like when you're feeling angry or upset for you and I probably to be like channeling that mode into like motivation for a workout. Like
Yeah.
naturally we're like, okay, I know I can exhaust myself a certain way. And it's cool to explore the unnatural ways of decompressing. Like for me, going for a workout is like that's like my bread and butter when I'm like, oh, I want to feel better, you know?
Yeah.
But like sitting down and journaling or going through something like cold water, like cold is my enemy, dude. I'm the worst Canadian ever. So like I am the biggest bitch when it comes to that stuff. Like I'm all yeah, it's nuts. If you get in my truck, dude, you're like, this is a sauna. Cause I'm like, I want to wear a t-shirt, dude. I want 40-degree weather.
Yeah.
So so it's cool to like explore the unnatural of like this is my kryptonite and I want to just like venture off into the woods for a bit with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's sick, man. You'll have to keep me posted on how you're liking it because I've anybody I've talked to that has started to do it or try it, they love it. Like it's crazy the response. And then some people are like, no, it's not happening. I'm like, okay, well, we'll try something else. So, but yeah, it's been yeah. I have a few clients now that are actually doing it, and they love it, right? Like even just cold showers, right? Like not everybody's fortunate to live right by a waterway, but yeah, like just getting a cold shower is great too, right? So yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome that you're doing it. That's cool.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to see how, because instantly it was not my idea. When my friends were like, yo, we should do this, I was like, that is the thing I'd probably be the least stoked to do. Like, I'll do anything else. Like, if you
Yeah.
want me to read a law textbook, I'd rather do that. Like, dude, like literally anything else.
And like
And
I
then I
grew
was like, this is why I should do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because a bunch of like my friend, childhood friends growing up and stuff, they know how much I don't like the cold too. So they're like, "What are you doing?" And I was telling them about going in the water. They're like, "But why?" Like they're like, "This makes no sense," because they knew me growing up. Like I lived a little community. Actually, it was where Stompin' Tom Condors grew up, like Skinner's Pond. Super, like 10 people live here, man. Like it was small community, right? And so yeah, so growing up, everybody had skidoos and whatever, but we would always get that north wind off of the water, and it was just bone chilling. Like you had to wait for the plow to go by so you could go get anything. Like it was if it was a storm. So then I hated winter. Other than going to the rink to play hockey, I was like, it's cold. I'm staying inside where it's warm. Like, so it's definitely a complete 180 now because I'm like, oh, wicked. It's a nice day to go out in the water, and like it's just different, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely different. I don't know. There's something about it too, like because there's so many times when I'm at work and I'm working outside, it's cold. Like there's so many times when, yeah, I grew up playing rugby and hockey and being out in the rain and in the mud and you're cold, you're shivering, but then you're still playing sports. Like
Yeah.
there's something about it now, like as an adult, having like no reason to do it. You're like, there's literally that's the thought that I had when I was sitting in it today is like, there's literally no reason for me to do this. Like, there's literally in my life, if you were to like map out my whole life and show someone explain it, they'd be like, okay, most of this makes sense. Why this part? Like, what's what's that all about? Like,
Yeah, it's so true. I remember whenever I was younger, there was three or four of us, and like I said, small town, and we were like, we should bike across BEI like on our bicycles. And then so I think it was four of us were going to do it, and then slowly, bit by bit, everybody started backing out. And then I remember I was 16 and I had a CCM dual shock with no lockouts. And it was like there was a lot of rust on that thing. And I was like, I'm doing it. And they're like, you're still going? And I'm like, yeah. So I ended up going tip to tip on I think it was like 190 some kilometers, but I ended up, my dad was like my like replenishment. So like this is, even pre GPS, like we had like a Garmin GPS and we had the old map, and I try to figure out when I was going to meet him on the it's Confederation Trail, they call it. So it goes right from one tip to the other. And yeah, so I ended up doing it, and they were like, "Bah, bitch, you can't do it again." And I was like, all right, well, watch me. So then I ended up doing it 3 times in 1 month because I was like, what do you mean I can't do it again? I just did it last week. And they're like, yeah, you can't do it again. I'm like, okay. So then I went again. And then I was like, well, for an extra, kiss my arse, I did it a third time. So, but it was a blast. But even then, like I was only 16, but it was such a good experience for that mind over matter kind of thing, right? Like just being like, yeah, it's just me and the bike. And eventually I'm going to meet pops along the way, but just got to get through it, right? And hope that we don't have a blowout because I don't got a patch kit. So
That's hilarious, man.
yeah,
I,
but it was wicked.
I did you ever have a blowout or anything like that?
No, we lucked out. My buddy actually once came with me, and we got he was a riot. So he would just tell jokes the whole time. Like the guy was like an encyclopedia of jokes, man. He was just one after another. And I think we were only about 5 hours in, and all of a sudden, just boom, he hit a little rock, and he had this bald ass tires that he showed up with, and the rock just punctured it, and it just like bang. And I'm like, great, now we got to walk 20K to the next friggin' road here. So yeah, so we ended up having to do it again once he got a new tire, but yeah, it was fun.
Oh man. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I've never done anything like endurance sport. Like I've done just a marathon and a couple half marathons, but nothing that's like that long. Like that's so crazy, man.
Yeah, it was wicked. How did you find, like, we're training now for an ultra, like, and I've only ever run a 10K. So how did you like whenever, like, did you do much training before the marathon or how did you like it?
I do the thing was is I was at a point where I was running like probably 6, 7K a day.
Hmm.
And I could do a 10K in about like 55, 50 minutes was like my comfortable pace.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, okay, I can run a 10K, so I could do that 4 times. Like that's pretty, that was the training that I had was just like daily running. And
Yeah.
then I was like, yeah, I'll just do it. And I just woke up and then I did it. It was pretty wild though, man. The amount of times where there was just like so many unexpected like road bumps along the way. Like you expect, you're like, oh, I'll probably get hungry. Oh, I'll probably get thirsty. Oh, I'll probably do this. You don't think like, when I wake up at 5 o'clock and I go to just run a marathon by myself with my Strava app or whatever, it's like you don't think about like, oh, I have to shit. Oh, I have, like I have to do this. I have to do like what am I gonna do? I've ran 10 kilometers away from my house already. Like what
Yeah. Yeah.
so there was a lot of things like that. Dude, if you heard me in the shower after all the running, dude, my ass was so chafed. It was like there was so many things. And I had talked to people that do like marathons and ultras, and they never warned me about things like that. They never told me. So, like, dude, the one thing I can say is like, make sure you like lube up that ass, like do inner thighs, like whatever areas you think might chafe, they will and
Yeah.
more. Like, and plan your bathroom spots, man.
Yeah. Oh, that's every now and then that happens where you're like, nah, I'm good for the run. And then you're like, nope, we're not making it.
No, dude. And it's like I don't know about you, but like for me, I think it took me like almost like 5 hours and like I want to say 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And like yeah, dude, I don't know. Like you're like you just don't think about going to the bathroom until like 2 hours in, and then you're like, oh, this sucks. This is
Yeah.
hopefully this neighbor doesn't turn their lights on the bush, man. Like I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. I remember we did well, whenever me and my partner, we did tip to tip on our gravel bikes. And I was like, oh yeah, whenever I did this as a kid, blah, 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 like this is what we did. But we had never really done taking into account the road because we were kind of doing both. Anyways, so we went, we took the trail. So we left from this small, like the very tip of northern PEI called North Cape. You can see the tip from my homestead. And so we left from there. And then we were trying to make it to this little city. It's like, I forget how many people are in there now, 20,000 maybe. And we were trying to get there before nightfall, and we were like, well, if we're camping, let's try and let's go out to, it's called Twin Shores. It's this nice little campground. We're like, we'll try to get there. It's just outside Summerside, by car. So, so, so I didn't, like pretty easy going. So I was like, yeah, whatever, we'll be good. So we're going and going. And then we wanted to have a little pit stop because they have this thing in PEI called Burger Week. So every brewery, restaurant, spots, dairy bars have this burger, and then they get tested for who's the best one. So we're like, well, let's go over to fuck, what was it? Not Lone Oak. That's a different one. Moth Lane Brewing. It's a super cool spot. It's like Buddy's backyard, basically. And we're like, yeah, let's go have their burger and a beer. So we're there hanging out. It's like probably 3 o'clock in the evening, 4 o'clock. And Chris, my partner's like, we still got 60K left. And I'm like, come again? And she's like, yeah, no, we have a long ways left. I'm like, this is gonna suck. So we take off. We get there just before sunset. And normally, whenever you're biking, it's the same thing. You put this stuff on the old skid plate called chamois cream, and that way you don't get the old chafing.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't do that. And then I was a genius, and I wore compression shorts because that's what a smart person would do, below, underneath padded shorts. So
Athletic move. That's an athletic move.
it was a genius move, and it was very shower sucked. so, so yeah, I learned my lesson. From now on, if anytime I go, I'm like, nope, we're not wearing boxers under these things today, because it was a learning lesson. 100, I think it was 160 some kilometers we ended up doing in that day, and yeah, it was a chalk it up to experience.
Dude, that's nuts. That
Jamie
is
Cream's your
crazy.
friend.
Good old chamois cream.
Yeah. I remember at the bike shop I went to, they were like, I was saying about like, like whenever you're like uncomfortable in the saddle and stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, saddle sores. I'm like, what the hell's a saddle sore? He's like, exactly what you're talking about. And I was like, oh, he's like, you use this. And I'm like, the hell's a chamois? And he was like, no, it's chamois cream. He said, you put it down there and it helps. And I'm like, okay, I'm like on the skid plate, like right there. And he's
Right
like,
in the Forbidden Valley.
that's what he said. He goes, yeah, you'll appreciate it. I'm like, all right. Forbidden Valley. Yeah, exactly.
And a little bit extra around the outsides too, man. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. So no, that's good, man. That's yeah, good times. Chalk it up to experience, right?
Oh man, absolutely. It's crazy that you didn't even have a blowout, dude. I used to do this 20K loop around my neighborhood here. And dude, I had so many times where I had like blowouts that I knew bushes I could chuck my bike in and
Yeah.
then drive back with my truck and go and get it because I got so tired of walking my bike back home. Like I would throw it on my shoulder and just jog. And then I was like, dude, fuck this. I just chucked it in a bush.
Yeah, we've been fortunate. Anytime we've went, knock on wood, we haven't had any real blowouts. The only thing was a derailleur jammed up on her, and I tried to jimmy it up, but I think I just broke it more. So we ended up getting it to limping it to a bike shop, but she could only stay in her upper cogs. So like she's a machine. So every hill she was in her upper gears, and I'm in like the lowest gear, just like loving life. And she's just cranking through the big gears trying to get up this hill. So
Like you got one gear, go.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah, it was a legit, yeah, a single gear bike.
That's nuts, man. So,
Yeah.
so dude, like, yeah, now that we're in 2024, do you have like other, like you said you're training for an ultra?
Yeah, so it was kind of like uh basically what happened like after I was injured and stuff and I couldn't really, walk other than my big old club foot. I was like, I really appreciated being able to go for runs once I was able to, and like kind of the progression of like being able to put pressure on the front of my foot, and then learning about like I remember whenever they said like I broke my third metatarsal. I'm like, what's a metatarsal? And they're like, well, it's like your finger bones. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So like then I ended up just really digging deep, right? Because like where Kristen's a physiotherapist, she was like, well, you got to retrain your tendons in your feet and this and that, right? Because I had all the little speed bumps along the way. So then I just started running a lot because it was helping me I started hiking with the pugs to get me outside. And then I just started jogging. And then I started jogging a little further and a little further. And then I was like, I'm like feeling really good whenever I get back from these runs. So I just started just digging deep, and I'm like, all right, like let's do a run. So there's the local gym here. One of the members had done, it's like a backyard ultra, so it's like 6.75 or 6.78 kilometers every hour on the hour till the last man's done. So she did it, and I was like, sweet, all right, that seems wicked, because a bunch of people had went to kind of cheer her on. I'm like, that seems awesome. So then I was like, ah, let's do that. So so then we just started kind of digging on like seeing like research of like actual like ultra marathon runners, and we did like a Spartan race and absolutely loved it. So then we just started like just running and just building up. Basically, like I don't work, the way I built out the template now is like I don't work on like distances. I work on time domains and gradually building it over a certain time domain every week. And then every 4 weeks we retest and then see what the progress is. And then we only really progress the client if they're able to kind of meet that same number, because a lot of them rate shift work, or just maybe they're doing a cycle of training too, and I don't want to burn them out. So yeah, I just started ended up doing that, and I'm just loving it. So
That's crazy, dude. I've always toyed with the idea of like, oh, I want to do something else again, but I
yeah,
find like I now that mentally I know that and it's so cliche that a lot of it is like such a mental game of
yeah,
like just being able to push through, not even just like the physical pain, because that's kind of like normal as an athlete to deal with, but
yeah,
like the boredom of like I'm 3 hours in and
yeah.
I'm fucking bored of this audiobook or this podcast or David Goggins yelling in my ear. Like I know like I'm fucking bored, dude. I don't want to do this anymore. Like those types of thoughts. Like
Yeah.
I have a buddy who runs ultras and he's been doing his last couple without headphones now just to like explore that.
Yeah, it was funny actually. We were listening, we were just watching on YouTube, went down the YouTube rabbit hole and found this gal. I forget her name now, but she was a CrossFitter and she ended up getting into running. And then she ended up doing this ultra, and she was saying that on one of her runs, she was running and she thought that there was a bus and somebody was outside the bus waving to her or something like that. Then she realized she was in the woods and there was no roads nearby. So she was just hallucinating. And she's like, oh, this is what it's like. And that was like her first experience. She was like, there's no bus and no road. Like I'm hallucinating this. So, and there's been like lots of endurance athletes talk about it where they're so drained and exhausted and sleep deprived that they're just like seeing shit in the woods, which is like crazy.
Yeah, I did it, dude. It's kind of funny because I did it in there's a like a city that it's right outside, it's just south of Vancouver. It's where the airport is. It's called Richmond. And
Oh
there's like
yeah.
a downtown core. And
Yeah.
then right on like kind of the southwest point of it is this place called Steveston, which is like a little fishing port, like a little fishing town. And
Yeah.
it's like such a beautiful place. There's like a beach you can run along and everything like that. So I was doing my loop for the
Yeah.
marathon between like the downtown core of the city and there. So it was like such a huge contrast so many
Yeah.
times where I'm like in the downtown core and it's like I started at 5 a.m. So like I was like it's like 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock when I'm a couple hours in, and there's like somebody drunk the night before getting arrested around the corner. Like there's like I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And then like 45 minutes later, I'm running on a beach watching the sunrise. Like such
Yeah.
a cool experience, man. I'll never forget that day. It was like I think Christmas Eve 2 years ago. And I
Wow.
still think about it, man, because it was like again, it was like you don't have to be doing this. Like it's Christmas Eve. Like what the fuck are you doing at 5 o'clock in the morning? Like,
Yeah. Was it during like COVID times, or was it just like out of the blue? You were just like, I'm going to do it.
yeah, it must have been because it was 2 years ago. So
Oh,
2020,
yeah.
2021, something
Yeah.
like that.
Still
So
the COVID
yeah.
going on. That's wicked. because I know there was a lot of people were doing stuff like, indoor treadmill runs, and like running groups started online, and like, Strava and all that stuff started taking off big time. So
Oh yeah. And for me, it was just like I just wanted to do it just to be able to brag to my friends of like I did it in the snow. It was like so shitty. Like every step you're like, I might slip. You're like,
yeah.
fuck this. Such a fun experience, dude. That was one of the craziest like fitness experiences I've had for
Yeah, that's
sure.
super cool. I know I'll definitely have to get into doing more and more like longer runs. Like right now, I think she's at 350 some minutes a week. But I forget now, like right now I'm only at, because I restarted my cycle because I had missed like a couple of weeks just over the holidays and onboarding clients and stuff. So I was like, well, I guess we'll restart the progressions again. So but yeah, she's up to like today I think she went 98 minutes or something like that. And but she said the same thing because she went up to where we usually go mountain biking, and she's like, it was a gong show. She said I was like cursing out loud, yelling at this frigging ground because it was we got a fresh snow cover and then all the ice underneath from the packed in mountain bike trail. So she said it was just a gong show. Like she's like, I don't know how I made it. I'm like, why would you pick there of all places?
Dude.
So
When I first started trying to get like a better like when I finished my gym bro phase and started doing more cardio,
yeah,
I couldn't run because I was like smoking all the time and shit. And so I
yeah,
had to start by biking.
yeah,
And the first winter rolled around and I was still like biking all the time. And the first snowfall hits and I never clued in because I had never done it like cardio outside or at all. So I was
yeah.
just like I'm gonna go for a bike ride. And the first corner I took, I fucking slammed so hard on my shoulder. I'm like, this sucks. Are you kidding me?
It's the worst idea ever.
Such a brutal. So with how are you managing? Because you're training and you're back
Yeah.
on duty as well.
Yeah,
And how are you managing training, being on duty, and like training other people? Like how is that all
it's
working?
good. It's definitely like a learning curve, but it's been good. But that's kind of where I kind of fell off on my training, and then I was like, oh crap, like I started to notice, right? Like I wasn't getting that like I was starting to feel a little burnt out, but I caught it pretty early. But yeah, it's great. Now I got a sweet system going that, I coach every at the local CrossFit gym. I coach every Monday and Friday mornings. Then as soon as the last class is done, I get out of the sweats and right into my work gear, and then off to work I go. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays are usually either like a running morning or I'll program for a couple hours as soon as I wake up. And then Wednesday morning's usually like a full rest day in the morning. And then I'll just do like some accessory training in the evening. So I think it's busy, but it's good. I've been getting better at programming ahead a lot more, and then kind of monitoring as we go, as opposed to having to cram out a client 6 week cycle on like 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, and I got to get up at 5 a.m. to coach. So that's the biggest thing, and the fact that sleep is so important for your recovery and your mental health, like making that's where I've been prioritizing in big time. But yeah, it's good. It was a learning curve at the start, and it's definitely been taken off. Like it's I'm getting a lot of clients, and it's busy, and I'm loving it. But yeah, it was a learning curve for a bit because as soon as I started back, right, and then you're out on the road, and then you're getting called in for overtime, and you're just like, what the how the hell am I going to do this now? So, but it's good.
Yeah. Do you ever struggle with or like get the feeling of like I find myself all the time being like I feel like I'm super fucking busy, but I'm not being productive. I'm
Yeah.
just doing shit.
Yeah. 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 So I ended up like just getting like a legit chalkboard that I just got right up in on the backside of the screen there. And I just write stuff right down, like, you like the client priorities and stuff. And then you can kind of see half of it over here. But I went out the other day and got like a 5 or 4 foot like whiteboard, and I just like hammer out, because what would happen is I'd be on my computer and I'd be programming for somebody, and then I get a message from someone else, and then I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I'll go do that for them. And then, oh, I'll go do that. And oh, this would be a good post. And oh, what about my nutrition? And then just, and then I'm like, where was I at the start? So now what I do is I go over there, I'll crush out a client's full cycle for the 6 weeks. And then I can come here, program it out, and I got it all over there for the full to be able to jam it into their cycle. So I definitely have built out some systems through trial and error. But yeah, it's good. Time management is definitely getting better.
I wish I could turn my screen around and show you. I've got like really similar setup actually. It's funny you say that. I've got a whiteboard that I can like see right from my computer here, and I just every single morning write out like 5 to 6 things. It's like if you take care of these things, whatever happens, it's not a failure of a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. And I think and where I have to be so switched on at work on duty, it's good. Like I, and this is like a nice release whenever I get home and in the mornings, like it kind of distracts me from the stressors of the job, which is wicked. And then you can kind of leave work at work because you got something to distract you whenever you get out too, right? And then you see the client's progress, like, and it's just wicked, right, to see them so doing well. So yeah, time management's they don't teach that in school.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they maybe try, but yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think it sticks. I feel like it's
listen.
difficult to teach like young people those
Mm,
it's such a weird system that we have because I feel like as adults is when we're like, okay, I need to learn now. I want to learn things. And
yeah,
then as kids, we're like, I need to try shit. I
yeah,
just want to do things. Like I just want to do things. I don't want to learn. I want to
yeah,
do.
yeah. It's so true. Yeah.
What a weird system, man. That's how my brain works. But dude, so you said 6 months ago you got back on duty?
Yeah, yeah, I think I started cycling back. I guess it'd be what now? Well, we're in January, so it'd be fall, like September. So yeah, it's been good.
How has that been, man?
It's been good. Like it's like anything, right? Like, you have these little speed bumps along the way, but as I find now, I've been getting better and better at, with the as a result of the incident and stuff, being like, yeah, you know what, I'm elevated today, or I'm feeling like I need a minute, and kind of recognizing that and being like, it's all right. Like I know this is something I'll have to deal with for my life, but making sure that I can mitigate the risks, right? Like cutting down alcohol, like I barely drink, um, and maximizing my sleep, making sure I'm getting my food because I get hangry as all hell. So, so just kind of like mitigating the risks or like the stressors to the body so that it can kind of process the day. And with this line of work too, right? Like with policing and first responders, there's so much like of the anxiety of just like hearing the radios, like, oh, what's this call? Here we go again. Or, or if you're at a fire station and you get the call to a structure fire and you're just like, oh, here we go. Right. So mitigating the stressors to your body, that's what I found has been really helpful. I've noticed the progress a lot from that. And
Yeah, man.
being, what's the word I'm looking for? But like not forgiving to yourself, but being like, yeah, like I had a shitty day today. Like it's good. We'll sleep it and we'll get back at it tomorrow. Like it's all good. Right. Kind of keeping that pushing mindset. Like that's kind of where that whole one more step came from, was legit just keep moving, just keep progressing. Like, and not you're going to have some speed bumps, but we'll get there. Right.
Yeah, man. It's tough to deal with that kind of like the guilt from the pressure that we put on ourselves, dude. I feel that all the time, dude. Like I
Yeah.
feel it in weird situations too. Like just like even like if I like sleep in when I'm like, oh shit, I knew I was supposed to wake up and do this thing and now I gotta make up time. And
Yeah.
like now my whole day is thrown off because my mornings got messed up. Like whatever it is. And dude, even little things like that can be like I feel like shit for like a day or two because I'm like, oh, I messed up on this commitment that I made.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I had like I was noticing I was trying to do too much and not getting the other stuff done. So I was like, all right, I gotta, like, that's where the like kind of the same with you, right? I gotta get these things done. And I gotta use like some sort of calendar system that I can sync between devices because I had multiple calendars and I was like, it's not working. So So yeah, it's been good though. Like it's good to get back, and it was always what I wanted to do my whole life. So I'm glad I didn't throw in the towel and get back at it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's huge, man. It's huge because I feel like there's been most things in my life whenever I feel like a like that resistance, I'm like, fuck this. Maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. Like this obviously if it was what I was supposed to do, it should come naturally.
yeah,
There's so many times where I've had that conversation in my head. And
yeah,
it's even like coming back is like a huge thing where it's like I don't know what I'm trying to say, but other than I commend you, man. Like that's
oh,
fucking
thanks, buddy.
sick.
Yeah, I appreciate
That's what I'm trying to
it.
say. Is like
Yeah.
that's a huge like accomplishment just to have the mindset of like I'm not fucking giving this up.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like, yeah, like, being like, yeah, like, look, you're gonna have shitty days, but then looking back to like, all right, like think back to the time that I was downstairs whenever it was plus 30 some out and people were hanging out at the lake and I was downstairs, didn't want to get off the couch, right? Like, being appreciative of like, hey, I've come this far. Like, I just gotta keep making little steps along the way and we'll get there, right? So, I think anybody can do that, right? If anybody's kind of having like shitty days happen, but just kind of like, all right, let's fucking push on. We got this, right? So, yeah.
Has there been like a certain aspect to the job that you found like to be like more difficult or anything like that? Like there's like
Yeah. I would say probably, I'd say just kind of like the cumulative stress of the gig is hard, right? So I'm fortunate now I'm in like a kind of a plainclothes position. So I'm not on patrol right now, which is nice because there's that cumulative stress is huge on patrol. So I've been fortunate that way. The unit I'm in now, we're just a different unit, which is great. And I like that a lot because you kind of know like every now and then there's a curveball, but for the most part, you're like, yeah, we're gonna go do surveillance on this, we're gonna go do this or that, and it's a little more analytical, which is wicked. Um, but yeah, I'd say it's just the culture today is a lot of officers I find are struggling with that, right? Like the respect factor and painting everybody with the same brush and all that stuff. I find that's been draining on the career, but at the same time, it is what it is, and you just kind of take it on the take it on the shoulder or down the chin and keep moving on, right? So
do you mean like the way that people like you when you say respect factor, you mean like the way that people think of cops or the way that cops think of
yeah,
other people or
I would say yeah, because like whenever I grew up, right, my father was a Mountie for 32 years, right? And then a lot's changed since whenever he started in 72. And so, I think like I've seen the change myself through growing up and then now being in the career. And yeah, I think it's changed, but it is what it is, right? I think it'll come back, but not taking it personally, I think has been a big thing, a big step, as opposed to kind of being like, oh, they hate me. It's like, no, they had a bad experience and now they're thinking that I'm going to do that too, and kind of breaking down that wall, right? Like, I'm not just police. My name's Deven. Like, hey, like,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, this is a shitty situation we're in together here, but I don't want to, I got to be here and I'm trying to help you, so that seems to have helped a lot.
Yeah. Do they have a local police or just RCMP where you are?
So I'm with the local department. So I'm with the local department, and then RCMP are in the kind of in the county and in the province.
And
Yeah,
is there a different like kind of I'll say this because I feel like, and this is just kind of my anecdotal experience. I've always had really good experiences with VPD. And
yeah,
then I've also had good experiences with RCMP as well, but I know that the general feel around Vancouver is like VPD's kind of like not more chill, but more like they kind of I don't know how to explain it. Like it's kind of like a better like you'd rather be arrested by a VPD. You'd rather not be arrested, but like you'd rather there and there's many reasons. Like there's a lot of I remember like the mayor when I was in high school basically said to VPD, like, I don't want to see the courts clogged with like weed charges. So even though it wasn't like federally illegal, he's like, there's so much drugs in Vancouver that
Yeah.
like I just don't want to clog the system with that. So like they were kind of more lenient with things that were like, nah, I don't know how to explain it because they still upheld the law. Like they still stopped us as teenagers, but like it was
Yeah.
kind of like a more like as if like your neighbor was like kind of grabbing you by the shoulder and like, all right, buddy, this is like the point where you can stop before it gets ugly. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
like one of those, as opposed to like, I don't know, is there a kind of similar feel around where you were at, or can you
Yeah.
not say shit about RCMP or
Yeah, well, definitely not gonna, but no, I got in the unit I'm in now is integrated, and like I don't have anything bad to say about them. I just with us, right? It's like we're a small department, so like people see us and they're like, oh, like you're gonna see the people you deal with lots of times in your career. So as opposed to kind of rotating in and out, right? So it was a little different where I grew up because it was a lot of the same guys kind of stayed there and like moved into the area and lived there for years. So you kind of got to know them anyways. There wasn't a lot of rotation of the RCMP. Um, but yeah, it's funny because like now, that I've been in the career for, over a decade now, you get guys that are like, oh, fine, all right, because it's you, or you hear it all the time, like, all right, I'll come out, but it's because of you and not because I have to, like, you know what I mean? So you hear that at calls too, which is funny. And it also goes the other way too, right? If you have a bad experience, you're probably going to see the guy again. So, I think it just maybe that's kind of with the municipality side of it. You're going to run into the guys again, let alone at the grocery store whenever you got to go get a loaf of bread. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's funny because I don't know if I told you, I used to work at a gym and it was above RCMP place. Like
Oh, really?
yeah. So we had a lot of cops training at our gym. And
Sweet.
obviously, like gyms bring in a big variety of people. So there's obviously other people that are like kind of criminals and gangsters, whatever, coming to the train at this gym. And it was always funny because we actually had police discounts and police like parking,
Yeah.
and they like wouldn't use them because they like
Yeah.
didn't. I don't, dude. I want to just like come in, baseball cap, hood on. Like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to let anyone know what I do. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You find that a lot amongst police. They're like, you're out somewheres and yeah, what do you do for a job? I'm like, insurance broker. Like, like heavy equipment operator, like pick a career, but not a lot of us say we're police when we're out on the go.
yeah, man. It is kind of it's a sad place that when people don't like value that, because it's like for me I always ask my buddies, it's like, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
You're gonna beg someone to not rob you, or
Yeah.
like you're gonna like, what's the alternative? Are you a militia? Like, do you have the
Yeah.
that capability?
Yeah. No, it's good. RTF's been a good like kind of distraction, and also like some of the clients that I have now are training for the academy, so it's nice, like they got that their shit eating grin from ear to ear. They're just stoked they got in, right? And I'm like, all right, here we go. And you kind of putting them through the paces with some of the online programming and stuff. And so it's nice to see that. Like, I remember whenever I was kind of getting crusty in my career and stuff, and like, fuck, I got to train this new guy. Like, oh crap, here we go, right? But at the same time, there's such a breath of fresh air in a department. Like they're like, oh, well, let's go to that call. And I'm like, oh, man, there's me so much paperwork after this call. Like, why do we have to take this one, right? But it's crazy. Like we had a lot of turnover recently, and it was the new guys and girls. They're just, yeah, it's been good. So yeah, definitely trying to take a different spin on it, and it's not like the old term, the FNG, like the fucking new guy, like so trying to be different with that, and it's been good. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool when you get to when you find someone that like if you've developed a skill or you have like kind of a job like that, and then you find someone that wants to do it and you're like
Yeah.
wants to learn, and you're like, dude, this is sick. Like I've been trying to convince people to do this.
Yeah.
You want to do this? Like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely been interesting, right? And I think that's where like, and even some of my coworkers to a degree, right? They're like seeing what I've kind of built with RTF, and it's still so new, right? But whenever they see the progress and they can kind of see after 6 weeks somebody makes such a percent increase in a certain lift, and they're like, what the fuck, like there is a method to this, right? So and kind of just, it's been really good for my career, or for myself too. Just whenever you're out on surveillance, let's say, and you're sitting staring at a tree for friggin' 5 hours, and you're just like, and well, how the hell am I gonna stretch? And you get out and your back's all stiff and your SI's locked up like there's no tomorrow, and your hamstrings don't even move, and you're like, all right, I got to figure out some mobility shit because I can't be doing this every day, right? So that's been interesting too.
Yeah, man. I never really think of that. You only ever, I always thought that those types of things were just for movies, like dudes chilling in the car with maybe like some screens in the back of a van
Yeah.
type of
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
talking to someone. I don't know, like,
There's only so many sunflowers you can eat, sunflower seeds you can eat, or you're just like, man, I got to stretch here. So,
that's
yeah.
hilarious, man. How like it's so weird as well, or kind of maybe not weird, but it's interesting to think about like kind of purpose and those types of things that we can use as like a driving force. Would you say that you've kind of found your purpose, and did you
Yeah.
like do you think that you stumbled upon it or that you always knew it or
I think like that was one of the biggest things I found, and I remember saying that to my support system whenever I was trying to get better. Was I was like, I don't have a purpose right now. Like I don't want to. I can't go back to my job. I don't know if I can. Like what am I going to do? And so I lost that purpose, and that was everything I ever wanted. So then it was almost like it. Once I found like RTF and I found how fitness and changing some lifestyle stuff and kind of going for that overall deep health, it just was like, it was like just that opened up another part of my brain, and I would just wanted to learn more, and I wanted to, like, I study whenever I'm not programming for clients or I'm not at work. I'm just like hammering into books, and I definitely think this has been my new purpose. And like I still love the job, but this is like a passion now, as opposed to before where it was like, yeah, I'll go train so that I can survive in a fight. Now it's like, yeah, like this is, I love this. So yeah, it's definitely given me a new purpose and a new kind of goal with life for sure.
do you think you would have found this purpose if you had not had like the accident and the issues that you kind of had to overcome mentally and physically?
I don't think. You know what? Maybe, but probably not. Because it was, things are going pretty good, but like I never seen how far you can go down like the mental health road, and how far you can get struggling. Like I never really thought that that would be me. And then so yeah, I don't think I would have really been like, all right, I'm doubling down on getting myself better if it wouldn't have been for this, right? So I think that incident was kind of like the catalyst, right? Where it was like, all right, like your mind's clicked, that your body's broken, like you got to get better or you're gonna be keep spiraling, right? So, and it wouldn't have happened if it wouldn't have been for the support system that I had, for sure. That was so good. And my partner's calling me Eeyore and saying, get the fuck off the couch, right? So that was big, right? Like, but yeah, no, I don't think it would have happened if it wouldn't have been for that incident, which is kind of like ironic, right? Like it's something that you wish never happened, but then at the same time, you're like, fuck, like, would I be here now doing this if it wasn't for it, right? So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. It's so weird to think that we just kind of like wander through life until there's something that we notice. Like and it's kind of like the whole like superhero versus villain. Like it's kind of like something bad happens to them and then they decide they don't want that to happen to other people, or they
yeah,
feel like everyone should feel that, like kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
And it's weird that we just, I think about myself before I kind of discovered even what purpose was. And
yeah,
I'm like, that's like, I'm just wandering. Like I'm just
yeah,
wandering through life. And then this, whatever happens. And then it's like, okay, I have a purpose now. Like it's so
yeah.
weird to think about. Like it's like different lives.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, like if I look back to like, whenever I was a rookie, like 23, happy as could be, just sitting there smiling at calls, people would be cursing at me or whatever, and I just being happy as could be, right? Like, but no idea that cumulative stress, and if you don't have positive outlets and you do what people have done for years and kind of, booze on the weekends and this and that, it's not going to help you, right? So, you know, if I could do it again in my career, I would have done this years ago, but I wouldn't have had like that new purpose. Like, you know what I mean? There wouldn't have been this, it wouldn't have the same effect that now where I'm like, yeah, like I fucked up for years and taking care of myself. Then this happened. And then I was really screwed up because I didn't set myself up for that success. Right.
Yeah,
So
there's definitely been a few times in my life where I like resonate so much with what you said, where you're like, wow, I did not want to be this guy.
yeah.
I did never thought that, that I would be the actor playing this character. Like this is never,
Yeah.
that's not me.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny actually. We were back. I was back on days off and I was visiting some of my like old buddies, like lifelong friends back home, and we were just sitting there having a yarn and having a pint, and we were laughing. He's like, man, like, because I was telling him about kind of like, if you're training and you got to replenish your carb stores and your glucose and how the muscle or protein synthesis, and he's like, what? And like he's like, what the hell are you talking about? But because that's not his jam, right? That's not his thing. But it was so funny because he's like, yeah, man, cool. Like that works, right? Like, but it was just so funny because, so much has changed, right? But, it's nice, right? You go back and you see the guys and everything, and kind of brings you back to the kind of the roots and stuff. And it was wicked. But, they were like, man, I never thought for the life of me you'd be trying to do fitness programming for somebody. Like that's crazy, right? So,
Yeah. And is every single one of the clients you have first responder? Is that like your,
yeah, I'd say there's probably a good 60% of them are first responders. Most of them are like training to go into policing or currently policing. I have a few that are training for the firefighting, like the beep tests and stuff. And then there's just civilians that are just like, hey, like, I like how you look at a deep health. Like, I have a client that I'm onboarding now, actually, that we're doing nutrition programming for. And I was like, okay, like, let's talk about your sleep. And she's like, well, I don't sleep. I'm like, okay. And I was like, what about stress levels? Oh, I'm stressed all the time. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I'm like, okay, because they have a lot of inflammation in their body and stuff, right? They're always sore at the gym and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so we're gonna put that on the list of things to do is sleep. So that's kind of, I think a lot of people like that. I kind of look at the deeper factor, not just like, I don't care if you can bench press 95 pounds, but you're happy as hell, perfect. But if you can bench press 135 and you're crusty and you're not sleeping, well, I don't care. Like, I'd rather you sleeping and getting better health and better overall health than just working at a bench press, right? So, kind of that's, I think, what a lot of people like is I'm constantly making sure, like, I do even lifestyle check-ins, and like every week I send them a form, and then I go through it, make sure that we're not overtraining them, things like that. So that seems to be what a lot of people really like that aren't police and first responders.
yeah. It's crazy how much we think about like, oh, when I'm working out and I'm doing this like new thing, this new me, right? Like you
Yeah,
think like the soreness and the body aches, you're like, oh, that will come from the training. But
yeah,
it's crazy how much like your sleep, and especially for me, I've found nutrition contributes to like how your body actually feels. Like for me, that
yeah,
was, for believe it or not, a fucking revelation that I had to
yeah,
make. Like it was like I didn't realize it until like I finished like a few solid months of like clean eating. And then I was like, holidays rolled around and cheat meals and garbage food, processed stuff, and all the
yeah,
good like fixins that you get around Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I remember I wake up and I'd have like the worst inflammation in my
yeah,
knees, and like my ankles, my hips would feel all jacked up. And I remember saying to my girlfriend, and I'm like, I can feel how I've been eating. Like my
Yeah.
knees fucking hurt. And
Yeah.
dude, I feel like I'm like 50. This sucks. Like like why am I feeling this? And she's like, that's literally like inflammation from all the processed garbage you've been eating. Your body's crying right now.
Yeah.
She's like, she's like, dude, you actually, and this was the part where I was like, whoa. Cause she's like, you actually probably felt like this most of your life. And now you've just like recently not felt like that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, dude, how it's weird how we don't know what it feels like to feel better until we do.
Yeah. 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 100%. Yeah.
Because you're like, it's like I think I liken it to, I don't know if someone said this or I thought of it. I don't think I thought of this, but it's kind of like when your refrigerator is humming. Like you never
Yeah.
notice it. And then when it's like off and you're in the room and it starts to come on, you're like, oh, what's that fucking noise? Like
Yeah.
it's the same thing when you have those like aches and then
Yeah.
you don't have them and then you get them again. You're like, why do my knees hurt? I just woke up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy too, just like how much your diet can affect your like inflammation in the body and stuff. And sometimes how much you have to focus on that, right? Yeah, it's like it's crazy. Even now that I've been doing more endurance style workouts, I really went down the rabbit hole of like endurance type nutrition and kind of like how the body processes nutrients. And like even now, like I had a client that was like, man, I'm getting like they're doing strength stuff. So they're not like high intensity, but it's high intensity for those reps. Um, and they're like, I just feel super bagged after like halfway through the workout. I'm like, well, how long are you here for usually? And they're like, an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm like, okay. Are you having any carbs? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so you're just drinking just water for 2 hours and you're here soaked in sweat. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, drink carbs. So, so then all of a sudden, like I check in with them a week later and they're like, yeah, that was way better. Like I feel like I'm not hitting a wall anymore. I'm like, yeah, because you're of course, right? So, but it's interesting, just little things like that, how it can just be the little tweak, and then it helps them kind of. I'm like, so what are you having for these 2 hours? Oh, nothing. I'm like, okay, yeah, no.
Just try a Gatorade, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. I
Yeah.
so you mentioned sleep a few times, man. And
Yeah.
have you read the book Why We Sleep?
Oh man, it's right fucking here. It's right up
Oh,
on the shelf of books. Oh yeah. It's so Matthew Walker is like a genius. Yeah.
scary fucking book, man.
Yeah. They're talking about like shift work and how like it's like in Europe, I guess now it's like a carcinogen now. Like they said like it's like so bad on
Because
your
it
body.
causes cancer.
Yeah, that's in
That's what
Europe.
carcinogen means, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, Matthew Walker. Actually, like he was it Huberman Lab or something recently? And I listen to everything I can of Matthew Walker because he is super, super smart with the how much of an effect it has on the body.
Yeah, what a good voice for a guy that talks about sleep.
Yeah.
Such a dude, that's a relaxing voice to listen to.
Yeah. Honestly, I read the book and then I heard him on a podcast and I had the same kind of reaction. I'm like, man, that is a soothing voice.
Yeah. I want that guy as a roommate sometimes, dude. That was I dude, I am a big like stickler about sleep. I'm like a weird nerd about it. I have used like the nose strips.
Yeah.
I've done the mouth tape, but as you probably know as well, it's a little bit difficult when you have facial hair to use like the mouth tape.
Yeah.
And I had a busted up nose for a while as well. But excuses aside, I'm a big nerd about like my sleep and like screen time before bed and the types
Yeah.
of activities I do before bed. And like I wear like a blackout mask and earplugs and stuff. Like I'm a big nerd about that. My girlfriend hates it. I refuse to have screens in the bedroom. Like I'm like big stickler about those types of things. Did like do you have any like things that you kind of have done in the last little bit to kind of capitalize on your sleep and time and quality as well?
Yeah, I try to get most of my clients. That's one of the first thing I'll program for them, irregardless, is I want you to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And if they're on shift work, then I kind of work with it. So if they're working 4 on, 4 off, then we kind of work a different kind of schedule with them because I know they have to be up. But that's because their body is in such a heightened state while they're over, their body's supposed to be sleeping. It's not sleeping and it's going to high risk calls or people screaming at them at 3 a.m. So like they're right. So their body's going to be stressed. So the last thing I want to do is get them to go run a 10K at 7 in the morning the next morning. Right. So I kind of program around that because I value sleep so much with my clients. I always make sure that I always try to get them at least that 1 to 2 hours before bedtime, like no electronics. Like if you are watching TV, like turn off all the lights, no phone, like just chill, right? I always try to get people to read before bed. I don't, if they don't want to, that's cool, but that's something that I find has helped a lot of like me and a lot of other people with just kind of decompressing and winding down in the evenings. Not a lot of carbs before bed too. That's always because that's you got a lot of glucose in it, right? Whenever your body breaks it down, so that'll spike up your sugars, and your body's not going to get to go get and relax. So I think a lot of setting up your body for that, right? Like, I don't got my MD or anything like that, but I think that there's a lot of research out there about why it's so important to sleep, right?
I'll give you an MD, bro. I'll write it down for you and I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think that there's like a huge value in it in training, especially making sure that we can still get that progress.
What would you say is like the weirdest thing you've implemented in your life in terms of like getting a better sleep? Like, is there anything that you've done where your girl's like, yo, what the fuck are you doing?
Fuck, I'm trying to think now. Oh shit. There's probably been some big stuff and I can't even think of it right now, but I think honestly, it was probably the cold water stuff because, I do it in the morning. So I'd have that big spike and kind of adrenaline in my body firing up and getting ready to go for the day. And I found like it would reset my, getting that morning sunlight in was good because it kind of, it'll, with the process in your body, it'll kind of start that circadian rhythm. So it kind of, so that your melatonin and all that stuff starts going through the body to make you get sleepy. But I can't think of any real curveballs of what I've done. This makes me think you've done something crazy to to get some crazy sleep.
No, I can't think of anything like crazy, crazy. I definitely like the sleep mask and the earplugs were one that she had to get used to. She was
Yeah.
just like, what the fuck? And but that only came to be because I was like no screens before bed kind of thing. I was like all about like I need to avoid the blue light. I need to avoid this. The adrenaline spike, the dopamine hits of social media. Like there's too many
Yeah.
things on the phone that I'm like
Yeah.
I'm either going to be mad or laughing or like just mindless. And so
Yeah.
like no screens, but yeah, I don't know. I think as well like even we like when we moved into this place we like designed the bedroom. I was like again like I was probably frustrating because I was like there's no TV going in our bedroom, there's no like my iPhone chargers in my office here, like I don't charge my phone or put it near me when I sleep. And literally I was like this room is for two things, like
Yeah.
that's it.
That's
Like
good.
I don't hang out in my bedroom. I'm not hanging out there. I'm not like doing anything. It's like I wake up, I leave, and that's it. Like
Yeah.
there's only one other activity for bed, man. That's
Which
it.
is actually that's so true. There's two activities, and that's it for the bedroom.
That's all we do there. Maybe put on clothes. That's the only
Yeah.
other activity.
But that was actually one of the things they said in the course was if you're having trouble sleeping, get up and kind of reset. Like get up and go out into the living room, maybe read for a minute or two. Try to get back into bed. But lying there and staring at the ceiling isn't going to get you to sleep. It's just going to make you pissed that you're not sleeping. so so yeah, that's one of the things too, like that I remember them saying was, if you're having trouble sleeping, lying there and staring at the ceiling's not going to help. So maybe trying to do something that's going to tire you out. Like for me, it's reading. Just like I love it, but man, that'll put me right out. So yeah.
Do you read in bed?
Oh yeah, yeah. I got used to it. So before I had to order a damn Kindle because I couldn't have the nightlight on because it would wake the missus up. So now she reads all the time whenever she goes to bed. So if I'm not reading, I still got to deal with the light because
Got to get that eye mask, bro. I'll send you a link.
yeah, send me the link. Yeah. So I can deal with it. I kind of make like a pillow fort so that it kind of blocks the light a little bit.
Oh,
But
dude, you need the cooling. You get some cooling mask or something like that, bro. You won't want that pillow fort again. You'll be like, I
yeah,
can't breathe in the pillow fort.
yeah,
I Dutch oven myself 3 times by accident.
yeah.
Once you get the eye mask, bro, it's a game changer. And dude, you'd be surprised how many places you can nap when you go to eye mask.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty good at I can crush a nap regardless normally, but
Okay, you're a savage then.
I was like, yeah. Yeah, but no, it's good. That's what I find has been kind of the biggest thing with clients is just making sure that they get that sleep.
And have you had any of those freaks that can sleep like 4 hours a night and just live normally? And
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I coach with them. I'm like, man, like at the gym, like he like a business guy, super successful. And I'm like, dude, do you sleep ever? Like, he's like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, how the hell? Like,
and what's
yeah,
his cocaine habit like?
yeah, yeah. Very, yeah. This person I wouldn't want to see on that substance for sure. They're a riot on a good day, anyways. So, fueled by
That's
caffeine.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. What's your magic number 8? Is that what you're good for?
Yeah, yeah. I try to get 8. Like today, I got geez, almost 10 hours, like 9.5, 10 hours. But I've been programming a ton, working overtime. So like today, I was like, no alarm, phones out, like I ain't budging. So leave the pugs in the crate. Like I'm sleeping. So whenever she got up, she let out the pugs and all the little demons. So yeah, because otherwise they'll just come up and they like Henry's a tank, so he just bowls down the door. Like you can have that thing latched, and he just boot kicks it like a SWAT team and jumps in on the bed with me. So yeah,
That's awesome, man.
they're good at sleeping. They should be writing a book on sleeping.
Dude, it's crazy how it's such a like a fundamental part of life and
Yeah,
how little we value it. It's insane. And how much we abuse it too, like how much it's kind of like there's so many people that kind of do the whole thing of like, oh, I'm trying to escape my thoughts at night. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts, or I just can't sleep. So they're like scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, and then it's like, oh, I stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning. And then you're like,
yeah,
and then they're like, oh, I need to make up for it. So then they
yeah,
sleep in for like an extra long time. And you're like, it's
yeah,
crazy how much we abuse it. It's like
yeah,
a weird like drug of like a mother nature's drug that we're like,
yeah.
some people just abuse it, man. And other people are just like, no, I don't need it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And some people, so that's the thing too. Like, on the course, um, they were talking about how some people are night owls, some people are night owls, morning larks, right? And it's not that the morning larks are more productive and the night owls are less productive or lazy or anything. It's just that's the way that their body works, right? So like for me, I wake up early and I'm like 5 o'clock, I'm bing and I'm ready to go, right? Um, and I can't train in the evening because I'm a bag of milk after 2 o'clock. And I'm just like, because I'm ready for a bed, you know what I mean? So then I'm just fueled on caffeine to get me going until the end of the evening. So, but understanding that, so then that comes into factor too with clients. Like if they can't train in the morning and they're used to training in the evening, well, I'm not going to get them to try to train in the morning because that's what I do. Like I want to optimize their training, right? So I think that being smart with that and being like, yeah, like I like sleeping in, I get to work from home or whatever. And then kind of working with that is it just everybody's so different. And that's what I've found a lot with even clients is like some clients are like, man, there's no way I could train in the morning. And then there's some clients that are like, I could not train in the evening. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah, it's definitely there's so many weird adjustments that you have to make when you find something you're like, okay, I want to do this, and then you find
Yeah.
something else and you're like, I want to do that as well, and trying to
Yeah.
balance them. Because that's like I get that all the time with like my jujitsu classes are at like 7 o'clock. So you finish up at like whatever, you're home at like 9:30 ish, like shower up, and then you're like adrenaline's still going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm gonna be up at 4 o'clock regardless. So this
Yeah.
sucks. Like there's
Yeah.
it's so funny how like you still have to try and maximize on like, all right, I got time like my taking my melatonin at the right time right after training, or like
How are
I
you
the
liking it? You said jujitsu that you're doing?
Yeah, yeah, man. I've been training for about almost 2.5, 3 years, maybe.
Sick. You're liking
Yeah,
it.
dude, it's a drug, man. It's
Yeah.
nuts.
Good for you.
Have you done any like martial arts or anything like that? Did I
No,
ask
like,
you that last time?
yeah, no, you might have. I'm trying to think, but no, no, I don't really have any of that training in the background, which is that's why I kind of got interest. There's a local guy that's got a judo um facility here and wicked guy, and he's always at me to go down. I'm like, but I'll try to fit it in some point, I'm sure. But I do have a huge appreciation for especially jujitsu because a lot of people, especially in the bigger city departments, they train in it. Just because it's so good with body control and all that. So yeah, that's why I was like, oh, you do that.
Yeah, yeah. That's like the first place I ever actually no, it wasn't, but the first place I ever signed up at, not took a class, but the first place I signed up at for classes, the one of the first things like we were taught is like he's like, this is what's gonna happen if someone tries to pick a fight. Like you're gonna learn
Yeah.
your first takedown and then how to just like hold someone down and restrain them. And
Yeah.
then he's like, before you continue from this point, just verbally ask them like, do you want to continue this? Like, do you wish to continue this? Like it's cool to, if you go to the right place to learn, they'll teach you like not as much because it's kind of there's like the sport of jujitsu and then there's like self-defense, and they're
Hmm.
kind of two separate things. You hear like guys say like, oh, this guy like just sits down on the ground and pulls someone on top of him. Like you wouldn't normally do that in a street fight. You don't want to be between someone else and concrete. Like it's not a
Yeah.
good place to be. But
Yeah.
there's like definitely like the school I go to, they have like a fundamentals course and it's called like fundamentals and self-defense, and it's
Yeah.
just like different circumstances of like if someone's trying to attack you head on, if someone's trying to do this, that, just like a basic takedown from that position, or like how to create distance and verbally like de-escalate. It's I'm a huge proponent of it, man. I think
Yeah.
like everyone should try and learn some sort of self-defense. Like I'm obviously partial to jujitsu because that's what I stumbled on,
Yeah.
but I it's even being like a bigger guy. Like I'm like 200 pounds, 5'11 ish. Like, like that's kind of like I grew up thinking like, oh, I could handle most people, but
Yeah.
like learning that there's smaller people that can kick the shit out of me,
Yeah.
and then like how beneficial it would be just to learn like the basics. I was like, okay, this is actually like something I can get better at. Like it's like a source of confidence of like
Yeah.
this is cool. Like it's like
Yeah.
I'm on a journey. I'm a student again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wicked, man. Good for you.
Highly encourage it. Dude, I feel like I could talk to you forever and just keep asking you questions. Is there anything that you thought of or anything that you wanted to talk about in particular today at all that we haven't
Oh, I
chatted
think,
or touched on?
yeah, I think you've done really good. Like, I think, I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it again. Like, I love jumping on the podcast with you because it's always a good kind of natural yarn, just shooting the shit. Yeah, no, I think you're good. Like, yeah, I think it's that's the thing is like I kind of love that about whenever me and you get on podcasts together because we're just kind of like, hey, what's up? And then we shoot the shit for an hour and we jump from subjects but it's just so natural, which I like that, man. Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, I'll definitely anytime at all, buddy. I'll hop on a podcast with you.
Hell yeah, man. We can do it anytime. It's funny because I love doing like exactly what you just said is like the amount of people I get to talk to and just pick their brains. And I've got a weird brain that goes in different directions, so I just follow it. And so, it's funny because sometimes I feel like the expectations that like I put like expectations like projected from someone else. Does that make sense? So I'm like, I felt like I let them down because I was like
Yeah. No,
you know?
good,
And so
man.
it's kind of a funny, yeah, dude, it's a good environment. So if you like sharing it with me, dude, you're on
Oh
anytime,
yeah.
man. Like,
Sweet. I love it.
hell yeah, man. So, yeah, out of respect for your time, man, thank you very much for everything you do. And continuing to let people have a good example of what a cop is and look up to and I think that you're an important person, man. I like
Yeah.
having you around, and I'm
Thank
glad we
you.
got to connect. So thank you for being you, man. Any closing thoughts or anything you want to share with anybody?
No, man, I think like that's it. If anybody ever wants to reach out to me, they can just resiliencethroughfitness.com or on social media, same thing. And yeah, like I love this. So if anybody wants any training or anything, they know where to reach me and or if they just want to have a yarn. All
Hell
right.
yeah, man.
Cheers,
All right.
buddy. We'll
Thank you
be
very
on
much.
again. You just let me know.
Dude, anytime we can do it weekly if you want, man.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much, brother. Have a good night.
Cheers, buddy. Take care.
Peace.